This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is Vanessa Marshall, Harrison Dula from Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
Joining us today for a cup of coffee to talk about the 7th episode of Willow. Chapter 7 is Beyond the Shattered Sea. Our two returning guests. Boy, 600 shows has really aged my voice, apparently. Our two returning guests to Coffee with Kenobi. First, let's bring in Mr. Ross Hollebon. Ross, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much, Dan. This is nice to be able to kind of wean off you a little bit after getting a chance to hang out with you and Tom Gross and Dan Ream and the gang and at Steam into Star Wars.
Yeah, that was a great time. It was fun, kind of reliving that and listening to everybody's coverage, Greg's coverage, and editing the show. And yeah, it was an absolute blast. So I appreciate you very much coming over to our neck of the woods, my friend. Also joining us on the show, he was on the first episode, I believe that's right, where we first looked at Willow, back by popular demand, and lots of owls were sent to the house. I guess it's a different franchise. Neil is back. Neil, welcome back to the show, buddy.
Hi, thanks, Dan. And hi, Ross. It's the first time meeting you, so should be fun today.
I think it will be a ton of fun. So yes, Neil Baker was... you were on earlier, and the big thing I want to ask you before we even start is, I know how much you love the brownies in the film. How did you like the brownies in the earlier season or in the earlier episode?
Yeah, we were talking about, is that episode 5?
I think it was 5, yeah.
One with all the bone reavers?
Yes.
Yeah, you know what? That wasn't so bad, was it? I could deal with it. Kevin Pollak I love anyway, so... Yes. You know, I was okay with him as Rule. Rule is his name, isn't it? I think so, yeah. But yeah, it was minimal in all aspects, and right. I was okay with it. So yeah, yes. no brownie hate from me anymore. Okay.
All right. Well, okay. So maybe it's balanced out. Yeah, no, I think that's all right. So one of the reasons I had you both on, besides always enjoying talking with the both of you, is I know you're both intelligent and you're both honest. And you also are able to look at things playfully as well. So I think it's going to be good. This episode, the official summary is basically, this is from the Lucasfilm website. Our heroes travel over the infinite expanse of the Shattered Sea, forced to journey to the very edge of the world and beyond. So Ross, we'll start with you. We'll save the letter grade for the end. We'll spend the entire episode, of course, kind of filling out our rubrics, but what would be one word you would use to describe the episode and your overall thoughts on the episode?
I'll say journey for the word, because it was quite a journey getting through the episode for me. I will support everything that Disney Plus does, and will try to support. So I have a couple of favorite actors even in this show. But at this point, I'm supporting Disney Plus with kind of where the show's going. So happy to support it. We'll always try to be on the positive side, but this isn't necessarily my favorite main dish that's been served up by the Disney Plus streaming.
So can you give us a little hint as to why? Because I don't think I've ever heard you say that about anything.
I almost feel like it's trying to do too much. It's trying to cater to too many different audiences. We're getting, there are even linguistics. There are times where it just kind of, it's almost, hey, now we're going to kind of be a little bit old Englishy, but now we're going to have the character in this episode say, hey, new girl, where are you at? Like you're hitting up someone on TikTok. So it's very inconsistent for me. Mm-hmm. And there are parts that I absolutely love. Visuals are incredible, things like that. But I don't know if I haven't put my thumb on it completely yet. I don't know if it is the directing or the writing or the delivery, but something's just off to me.
Okay. I hear you. Neil, what about you? One word to describe the episode and then your overall thoughts on it.
Okay, so the word would be mixed. And I've really got to stop being the second person you asked, because I always agree with the first person. Everything that Ross just said is like last time when Jen said everything.
It's our haircuts.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we do look very similar. I'm just whiter, beard. So yeah, I'm kind of watching it and trying very, very hard to enjoy it more than I am. And I'm watching it with the family. We're all kind of watching it and then not saying anything at the end. And I've watched series with them where we all just turn, oh wow, what about that? And this is just like we're watching it and then we're done with it and we're waiting for the next one, and then we're done with it and then we're going to wait for the next show. So it hasn't impressed me hugely. There's some really good parts in it that I do enjoy, but like Ross said, it is really and the writing is really actually doing my head in big time. And I'm surprised. I know it's not all John Kasdan, is it? We've got other writers as well involved, so I'm not pointing any fingers anywhere, but it just feels like a very bad misstep with the direction they're taking it, with a lot of the language that's being used and just the overall feel as well. And just to quickly mention, it felt weird this episode. The editing just felt a little bit off. It's like things were cut out, just little moments. But like getting to the fisherman's hut, just it suddenly happened, and there didn't seem to be any preamble to that. It wasn't seen in the distance, and it just felt a little bit strange to me that they're bemoaning the fact that they've got to make this tremendous walk across this shattered sea, and then suddenly they walk into this hut, and it felt very off to me. It was strange.
Okay, interesting. So I think it's fair to say that you both are scratching your heads a little bit over this episode. The word I'm going to use, I'm going to read the definition first. The definition of the word I'm going to use is confused and disconcerted. So my word is discombobulated. That's how I feel about this episode. The reason being, there were parts that I loved. In fact, I will go so far as to say the past 5 minutes was spectacular. The last 5 minutes was spectacular. A really wonderful little twist that wasn't necessarily a shock, but it was a welcome surprise, perhaps. And there's some great emotional beats. But the majority of the episode, particularly the middle section, I kept saying, what? I had some problems. I had some problems with the narrative, and we're going to talk all about that. Before we do, though, as we do on Coffee with Kenobi, yes, we're going to be honest, but we're also going to try to find, I think there are pearls in everything. So let's try to find some things that we did enjoy. And I guess I already kind of said it, but I'll expand on it a little bit more. At the end of the episode, we see this woman that has appeared. She's a strange woman from Kashmir. She's the only person in the vacant city besides Eric. And there's an interesting romantic connection between them. It's more like just because they're young, attractive people. There's some chemistry there. And then at the end, it's really kind of perfectly set up. It's Kit shows up with Alora, the two people who, at least what we've been told to see throughout this series, they care the most about Eric, and they're both going to team up against a transformed Eric who probably is not himself or in his right mind. It seems that he's probably possessed by the Crone, I'm guessing. But the build up to that, complete with the falling into that through that massive, down that little chasm through the water, you've got that nice little transformation symbolism there, was really beautiful. And one thing I will say about this show, regardless of the episodes and whether they're hitting or missing for you, and they're hitting more than missing, but not always for the reasons I'd hoped, is that they make really great cliffhangers, and this is a really spectacular one.
Yeah, agreed. Like that was a nice ending to it. As you're going through everything, and this was a 60-minute episode, so this was up there, and as it was getting to the end, it was just like, okay, now we've made it to the payoff, but it was a lot of work to get to that payoff. But it was, again, beautiful going from that water and then thinking of the water that he was fed for his transformation. It was kind of that red, murky kind of stuff, and they came through that pure waterfall type water. So that is these two kind of forces about to collide a little bit. So even the symbolism there was very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Did it not feel to you both, though, that this whole arc with Eric and Lily, the princess from Kashmir, just felt like it was, rushed. It was this one episode. If that had been kind of spread over 2 or 3 episodes,
or the whole season,
or the whole season even, because to be honest, I mean, we've really seen nothing of the Crone. I mean, I know she's this kind of shadowy villain, but there's nothing so far that makes me really fear her. It's sending out the gales maybe, and that's about it. But it's all talk and there's no action. There seems to be no kind of drama connected to the Crone character. And maybe Lily is the Crone. That was my first thought as soon as she appeared. And I don't know, if that's really going to happen. But yeah, this is another reason why this episode, it's got so much good stuff in it, but it still felt really uneven. And it just felt weird to me that they didn't really push this arc, because I had pretty much forgotten about Eric, over the course of the series. There wasn't any tension with regard to his predicament for me.
We didn't really know much about him except the first episode, which I really enjoyed him in, and then he disappeared for a while, which made sense. But I agree. I think that would be a great idea if maybe he was just by himself for one episode, and then we see this Princess Lily that is on for 3 or 4 episodes. Then when she finally reveals herself, or maybe she's just always been she's also possessed, or I don't know if anyone's possessed. Maybe we're possessed. But I think that would probably had a little more gravitas and a little more oomph to it. But that being said, it was effective. So Ross or Neil, do you have anything positive things to point out about the episode?
Yeah, I mean, it was beautiful. The depiction of the shattered sea, I thought, was just gorgeous, and the use of color, the use of space, just really nice cinematography, digital or otherwise. It was just so beautifully done. And I enjoyed the chase sequence. I thought that was really fun. There was some nice moments in that. Graydon suddenly pulling out his magic flute was a bit of a kind of a nice little twist. But like I said, from the beginning, Graydon's been my favorite character. I thought he was an interesting character in the first couple of episodes, and I like the arc that he's been on. It feels like it was resolved a little bit quick for me, though. This whole idea about him constantly getting possessed, and suddenly everybody's kind of okay with that. I'm not quite sure I'm too happy with what's going on there. There seems to be a lot of people kind of dealing with stuff very quickly as well. But anyway, sorry, this is the positive bit, isn't it? So I really like the chase.
Reel it in, Baker.
Yeah, sorry, I'm so sorry. I really like the chase scene. I thought was really good. Julian Glover was fantastic. It was just really lovely kind of Cornish accent that he was putting on as the old fisherman. I did like the creature. That was really lovely bit. It looked like it was a full-scale animatronic head, at one point.
You're referring to Kenneth, of course.
Don't get me started on names. But anyway.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah. But, I mean, that was beautiful. And I think it must be an animatronic one, I think, because Neil Scanlon's involved in the creature design, isn't he? So, yeah, that was lovely. So there are really nice moments in it. I liked Kit and Jade finally kind of, coming together, and it seems stronger, even though it still feels a tiny bit superfluous. I don't know, they're not being used enough for me. Other than that, it was, those were the main bits that really stuck out for me.
Excellent. Ross, anything that you want to point out that really worked for you?
Yeah, I really did enjoy their time in the hut, I guess we'll call it. And Zeb what the character's name was there. So
Yeah.
he was interesting. How's
Zeb,
he
really?
there? Yeah, and that's where it was kind of like, oh, really?
Is it not Zeb Aurelius?
Yeah, I was just like,
Zeb
okay,
Aurelius. No.
here's an interesting take here. So, and that's coming from obviously 2 giant Rebels fans here, if not 3. So I found it interesting that its name was Zeb, or his name was Zeb. But just kind of the interaction in there where you get those times during certain stories where someone's trying to stall without making it look like they're trying to stall. So, it seemed like he had it out for them. And he's like, oh, let's just have dinner. Oh, who wants breakfast now? How can I keep you here longer and longer? And then it's Graydon who realized that something was going on. And, he's slowly started, and it's really one of my favorite. I feel like a lot of the relationships throughout the series have been kind of forced a little bit. I think Graydon with Kenneth the Mudmander might be the strongest natural relationship that we've seen, and just how it kind of grew quickly. And there's this, he has this feeling and this connection, and is just like, hey, I need to set this little guy go. He's helped us get here. I've helped feed him. Just kind of those fun, and like you talked about, Neil, with the animatronics, like it's a beautiful little beast under the water coming up there, and super fun to look at. So like, especially as they're in this kind of darker place, you're seeing this, and it gives you that smile. It gives you, there's a lot of Disney in that little beast, and it's super fun in that regard. So, starting in the hut and everything happening there, but then kind of getting to the relationship between Graydon and Kenneth, I thought was super fun.
Okay. Well, all right, now let's take off our positive glasses for a second, and let's which are authentic, but I think it would be disingenuous. As I always say, as a critic, your no gives your yes more weight. There's one thing. Critical thinking, intellectual honesty, yes, let's put those things on the table. There are so many things that frustrate me about this episode. And one of the things that frustrates me is we see elements in this episode of how great this series can be. You mentioned Jonathan Kasdan. I love him. I said before, I've talked to him in person. He's an awesome guy. He's very smart. Of course, he comes from great writing pedigree. He's a great storyteller. He understands characters. What I don't understand are these characters. I'm taking a film class right now for grad school, and I actually read something today that was sort of apt for this conversation. And it talked about all of the tools used to tell a story, and I'm just very much synthesizing everything I read, is that you have to trust the narrative to tell an effective story. I don't trust this narrative. I think Neil, you mentioned some things seem missing. The editing continues to puzzle me. Now, I edit my show, but I'm not editing a multi-million-dollar show with special effects and actors and music and all this stuff. I can't even pretend to do it. What I know as a consumer and an educator and as someone who likes a good story well told, the HUD drove me batty because it was so incongruous and unusual. So we're led to believe there's something like this worm thing that's underneath the surface that's always crawling around that's never been mentioned. I don't know if it's in the movie, but it's never been mentioned this entire series. It's mentioned a little bit at the beginning, and yes, we get the great reprisal of Zeb. Of course, now this actor, Julian Glover, is, of course, the trifecta because he's General Veers in The Empire Strikes Back. He's Walter Donovan in Indiana Jones' Last Crusade. Now he's Zeb and Willow. I love that. What I don't understand is he's sitting there sucking on worms, and we're either led to believe that he's one of these knights. He's just kind of forgotten his way over so long. And then he's got a doppelganger that gets punched in the face, and then everybody runs out of the hut. And it made no sense. I thought, did I eat something with mushrooms in it? Like, why is this falling so flat for me? What is going on? I found myself really frustrated with that. Like, it's the, storytelling 101. Like, if there's a smoking gun, at the beginning, you got to show us who fired it or why it was fired, right? Chekhov's storytelling.
Chekhov, yeah.
That doesn't fly here at all. It makes no sense. And then I'm going to spend an inordinate amount of time complaining about that dopey water creature in a second, but we'll get to that.
Okay. Yeah. No.
Help me make sense of the hut if it's possible. I don't think it's possible.
To be honest,
I didn't sense. I don't know that it made sense, but it was interesting at least.
But why was it interesting? You add a wrinkle that has no beginning, middle, or end, and it doesn't connect to anything in the story. You might as well have shown people sitting at Burger King. I mean, seriously, why? I don't understand. It didn't have anything to do with the characters or their narrative at all. Otherwise, to give a chance for them to sit there and eat worms.
I think it was an element. Again, not saying that I love how they got there and the fact that, as Neil said, they just kind of showed up. It was just like, oh, we're in a field and all of a sudden there's a Burger King. Let's get something to eat. We're hungry, kind of thing. So it was a little too convenient to be there. Once they were in, I found it it could have been such an interesting, awesome place.
Like a Hansel and Gretel twist.
Bit more purpose.
That would have been great.
Right? So, but even once they do walk in, one of the notes that I have is Alora walks over to Zeb and she's making comments about him being dead when you can see him breathing. So like even just little things like that. I don't love everything that happened in that hut. I just thought there were some cool elements with it and maybe visuals that went with it, and that they did get to meet the little mud scupper that you're not a fan of. But
well, I don't mind. Well, I'll get to that.
But again, I think it kind of, to me, that's how a lot of the season has gone, where it's just like, oh, now we're going to pop up here. Now we're going to pop up here. These sort of things are going to happen because we need to get this into the story. So maybe I'm desensitized to that at this point. And I was just like, oh, I'm enjoying a little bit more of the back and forth here. But yeah, like this episode alone, like this episode really could have been split into two separate episodes, I think, and been done a little bit stronger by not trying to do everything that they attempted to do in this 1 hour.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm delighted to hear that you're at film school now as well, Dan, because I did my film degree and animation degree in California, and I still, use what I was taught when I'm watching stuff. And one of the main things they always said was, if you take this out of your script, will it affect the story? Will it affect the narrative? And there's a lot of moments where, you could take that entire hut scene, all of that out of the script, and it wouldn't make a jot of difference, and that nobody changed at all. Alora is kind of, she took a bit of a dark turn kind of really quickly. I mean, I can see, her magic powers have turned her hair the right color now, but she's kind of gone very kind of moody for some reason. And it doesn't feel like it's been earned, that moodiness.
Agreed.
Yeah, I understand your frustration, Dan, that the fact that it did nothing to push anything forward. There was nothing else. It was just an old guy reminiscing about his days questing. Now that's actually been the theme for this whole show. It's
right.
About it. There seems to be what daily life is basically farming, questing. And that's that, and everybody talks about it. Oh, what quest did you go on? Oh, I did this quest. Oh, I'm doing, and they're all talking about these different quests. This is the main thing actually that I took away from this episode, and that was because of my anger at some of the dialogue. It really feels to me like a D&D game. Okay, we're playing a D&D game, and there's one person at the table who's not taking it seriously. Okay, and they're doing the Leroy Jenkins stuff. Okay, but on a tabletop. Now, I'm also kind of very aware that I'm trying not to be a stick in the mud, and just to go with the flow and enjoy it. So I'm trying not to take it too seriously. But it's kind of annoying to me that you've got this unbelievable wealth of lore and world building and stuff that's gone into Willow
and resources. You've got Lucasfilm.
There's so much there, and it's been, I don't know, it feels like it's been cheapened by using dialogue from, I don't know, Legally Blonde or something. It's kind of that's what's really bugging me, and I don't know. It's something, and I think that's the main thing that's doing me in is the fact that there's so much potential here, and it's not being exploited, and that's really frustrating to me, because we're talking about an amazing set of actors, amazing production, so everything about it is potentially just mind blowing. And here's the thing as well, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here, but Willow as the titular character is the least interesting character in this entire show.
I agree. I wish that wasn't true, but I agree.
True, but it's like, it's doing. Oh, anyway, sorry. That's my little.
He's inconsistent in some of the narrative process. Ross, you had that I'm going to say something face. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just think again, like, we all love Warwick Davis.
Yes.
But it is not like, and it's been since early on. It's the comedy they attempt. It is, they try to do a lot of quick quips with him. I think that fall flat for a lot of jokes and things like that. Like, that just, some of it's a little slapstick humor. Some of it's just quick reactionary stuff. And it's like, it always misses. And then they hang on it for an extra half second. And you're just like, oh, I think someone was supposed to laugh there. and it's not happening. So that's hard. But then I think also with that inconsistency of things, sometimes he's the lighthearted, hey guys, we got to go get this done. And then it's like half a second later, it's the taskmaster. And it flips back and forth so quick that, this is like, we just had the holidays in the Polar Express. This is like quickly becoming the Bipolar Express. And no one can decide who they are and what they're going to be doing.
That's outstanding. Yes, that is trademark that for sure. Okay. I've got a list of things that rankle me a little bit, but I kind of kicked it off with the hut situation. Ross, do you want to? You're here at the table. You're at the coffee house with us. But as you fill up your second cup of coffee, talk about the things that are frustrating you, so we can get some caffeine in you, buddy.
So I really can't believe, it was during the second watch where I paid a little bit more attention to it to be like, okay, when does this actually happen? And it made a little bit more sense when I was looking for it. But when Elora Danon's hair changes color and it goes back to red, and no one, if I've missed it in the episode, please let me know and ridicule me for missing it. But
you didn't.
I've watched it twice and I'm just like, no one in that entire group says anything about her hair turning red,
including the guy that's in love with her, or more accurately, obsessed with her. He can't possibly be in love with her. Yeah.
So that it bugged me the entire episode because it happened at the beginning and I was just like, her hair's red now. What just happened? And why is no one talking about this?
And not only that, but suddenly she's got a new wardrobe with extra sleeves that drag through the mud. I mean, what are we doing here? I mean, what's going on? That drove me crazy too. In fact, it wasn't until I did some research into the episode that I even noticed that when her hair turned red, because I was watching the show and I just said out loud to no one in particular because I was watching it by myself. So that's another situation, another problem. I said, her hair's red? And I keep watching it and like, no, it's not. I don't have to adjust the settings on my picture. Her hair's red now. Cool. Couple things. If they dyed her hair blonde to protect her, doesn't that, I'm not a beautician, but that doesn't stay in for your entire life, does it? Or are we led to believe that something that apparently takes place a long time ago because we don't have modern technology? They're dyeing their hair like so a little peasant girl, because that's how they portray her to be. And when she's a cook, they make her seem like she's a peasant girl. So they would take the time to dye her hair. So again, verisimilitude. If you're gonna tell me the rules of the story, the rules of the world, the rules of the myth right off the bat. You can't just throw the rules into, it's like, you can't use a magic 8-ball to tell me that. And then no one ever comments on it, and she doesn't even notice it. And now she's got a different wardrobe, but everybody else pretty much has the same wardrobe. That just seems very superficial for a working class character that has been optimistic, earnest, sweet, and desperately trying to prove herself and to belong in a place where she's suddenly told, I am the most important thing of our culture, of our world, of this land. I love that. Like hearing it out loud, hearing and seeing your faces, like that sounds like rich storytelling. But I am doing all the heavy lifting. It's not coherent. It's not congruous in the narrative itself. And look, I mean, I think this makes sense, but we're not dopes. The three of us are not dopes.
At least I'm not most of the time.
Well, you're doing a good job of faking it. If I don't think you are. So anyway, any comments on that? Or you want to jump to another topic?
Yeah, I just think it's, and I try to put myself in someone else's shoes. Like what decision were they making? How did they decide to do this? Was it, because all of that occurred as she made the spell work that pulled Kit out of the water before Kit and Eric get the chance to actually
a great
touch.
visual. A great visual.
And so it could have built out so much more.
Mm-hmm.
And upon the second viewing and really paying attention to it, that's when all of a sudden she got this enhancement and it's just like, oh, now I guess she just got extra magic or something like that. But like no one else, back to both of us saying it, no one else noticed it. So if the other characters don't notice it, why is anyone in the audience going to accept it? Or if they do notice it, not be driven crazy like we were.
And she learns spells that are very, very powerful that she learned casually, that before she couldn't even say Gesundheit.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, she leveled up.
Yeah, I'll say.
Yeah, big time. I mean, there was a thing. I mean, I've only watched the episode once, but what I can remember of her change is that she had a kind of a wide red streak in her hair at the beginning, and then later on in the episode, I went, "Oh, it's all red now," and I wasn't really aware of when that really happened. Maybe, I mean, if you've seen it a couple of times, does that really happen? Like when she's doing the practicing, like when she's practicing because I mean, and if we're talking about nice things,
that'd be cool.
Good things. I did enjoy the dueling, and I really like the depictions of the magic. The kind of the zigzag bounce is really lovely.
That was great.
Beautifully done. Beautiful, excellent setting. Oh, sorry, but we're talking about things that distress us. Can we just talk about the use of contemporary music as well in this?
Well, yes,
because good grief, I mean, it pulls me out of it so quickly, and it's like there's so much good music that would work there. I don't know. I think Ross mentioned this earlier. I think he mentioned, Ross, that you weren't sure what demographic they were aiming for with this. I mean, we're talking about a really old film. So everybody that enjoyed it then is now an adult. Okay. So so they're saying, oh man, so we have to hit these demographics. We've got to hit the people that really like Willow, but we also got to get the young'uns in. Okay. We've got to get the teens in. So let's do all this. I don't know. They haven't used Imagine Dragons yet, but it might happen. So let's use some contemporary music and let's get people calling each other ditzes or whatever,
and she used McSleazy or whatever it was in the one part, and I was just like, oh,
it wasn't even Sleazy McSleaze face. It was, but yeah, it was just.
If anyone wants to, like, I know we're trying to stay positive in some regards here, but as we're critiquing this, there's an article by Eric Kane on Forbes.com, and it's the title of his week or his episode 7 review is "This Show is Its Own Worst Enemy." So if you're enjoying this conversation,
what does it say? Can you give me like I haven't seen it yet. Tell me what sort of his crux is. Is it similar things that bother him that are bothering us?
Yeah, I mean it's relative. Like it is the, he calls out the "Hey new girl, where you at?" And the music occurring. I believe he has 4. Let me bring this. He has like 4 main points that he hits in terms of.
The Beach Boys thing is by far the worst. The Good Vibration. And plus, it totally doesn't even make sense with what's happening either. Brian Wilson.
So if you just did 4 things to Willow, it could be halfway decent. And these were the things, just the highlights from them. Take out all modern music.
Mm-hmm.
Stop it with the cringy dialogue. Have sensible costumes for the setting, which I think we kind of touched on as well. And then please focus on the adventure and fantasy elements of the series and spare us all the young adult romance crap.
I actually think some of the young adult romance crap, particularly between Kit and the other character, his name is escaping me. I think theirs is effective and pretty cool. Like when it comes to teen angst, I feel like they nailed that one. I liked that. And as far as the dialogue goes, I notice it. It doesn't drive me as crazy as some of these other inconsistent narrative things. But if you're going to do it, just go all in. Advertise it as a comedy, right? Let's look, and maybe it's not fair to compare this, but the original Avengers, for example, or Robert Downey Jr.'s role. Look, when he's Tony Stark or Iron Man, he's snarky and he's sassy and he's rude and he says crazy things and modern things, but he also can turn it off and be really serious. But it's consistent throughout his character. He's well-rounded and he learns and he grows. I think you could say that maybe with a little bit with Kid at the end, none of these characters grow. None of these characters change. And I don't think you can convince me otherwise. I would love to be convinced. And if you have an opposite point of view, listeners, I would love to hear it. But at the end, when Kit and Allura have this big conversation and Kit owns up, I don't know why my dad picked you over me. Very valid, beautifully done. And she changes her tune. But also Allura is angry at Kit. And I'm trying to follow the little breadcrumbs, and they're pretty sparingly thrown down throughout the season. I don't really see a reason besides Kit being snarky. Allura, while it may have bugged her, she's always seemed above that. It doesn't mean you can't have a challenge and fall down and get back up. But I feel like Kit and what she represents, I'm sure Allura wants to be accepted by a peer naturally, but I just don't feel like there was enough there for me to buy that suddenly Allura is angry and cantankerous at Kit to the degree that we see when they confront one another. And I feel like, Neil, you maybe mentioned that a little bit ago.
It was, I'm kind of confused with their relationship because I believe maybe it was the Bone Reavers episode again with the Truth Plums or whatever it was.
Oh, yes.
Which I don't want to talk about another episode.
Which apparently we took before we started talking about the show.
Yeah, but they everybody seemed to kind of get along and make up, and so that was their truth, and Allura and Kit seemed to get on, and seemed to bury the hatchet pretty much, but then it's gone back and forth all the time, and I'm really, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like an earned relationship for the viewer. It doesn't feel like, I don't feel like Kit has done anything to really, get this disdain from Allura and Kit I really like as a character, and I like her and Jade. But she seems to be kind of underused a little bit, and
she's probably the strongest character in this whole thing.
Yeah, and I'd really love to see. I really would have loved to have seen her and Jade actually go through a much darker arc, considering their father's relationships.
Good point.
But that was kind of like, you okay with this? Yeah, okay, and they they just got on with it. It's like, what? Oh my god. Anyway,
now let's go to the homecoming game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who needs all those years of going to school to be a counselor? You can just do that.
Yes, exactly. Truth Plums work in any script as well, by the way. But when you're talking about characters not really developing, a favorite character of a lot of people is Borman, and Borman, is a lot of fun.
I like him too.
But my good grief, he's like one-dimensional, isn't he? And it's, and it hasn't. I haven't seen any. Maybe something's gonna, he's gonna realize that, he's the curious is not for him, and and it's gonna all be resolved or not in the final episode. But yeah,
what a worthless, what a silly MacGuffin. Like, and he wants, like, I get that it's sort of, I mean, there's a lot of meta in this show, and I get that they're going for that. But you know what, you mentioned Dungeons and Dragons earlier, and I just thought I had a thought. It's like I'm playing in Dungeons and Dragons where the DM isn't prepared.
Yes, totally.
Right, and like this Cuirass thing could be an interesting focal point, but it's thrown in there to give Borman something to do. Yeah. And then he wants this big moment, and then he picks a moment when he's isolated and there's really not anything to do. And of course it doesn't work because, for one thing, the idea of like a breastplate where you put like a massive metal suppository in the top, it's just not cool. Like, unless you're supposed to look like you're wearing an extended restraining bolt. I mean, I'm really not trying to be funny or cantankerous, but again, like we keep saying, I'm frustrated that this is frustrating. Like that, like there are incredibly and talented, amazing people working on this. And there's just so many things. I've been saying this almost since the beginning. There's so many things that appear to be missing to me that don't, and I don't need it to be spoon-fed. I like to think. But I'm just missing it, and I feel like it's all sort of encapsulated, if I could metaphorically say it, with Graydon's flute, and then Graydon's relationship with this water creature. Again, Neil Scanlon, I worship at the altar Neil Scanlon. He's amazing. Kenneth looks great, but I got to get it off my chest now. There is less than no reason, negative reason, why he has a relationship with this thing. The most emotion Graydon shows in this entire series is when he has to send this water creature away because it's going to die. That's
depressed.
Because it's depressed. I'm depressed that we didn't get to see them connect. I mean, it comes out of the water a couple times and he pets it. So what? So what? That is the emotional anchor for Graydon, who's got this cool arc in this challenging dark place, and he's in love with this woman who is the savior of the universe, Flash Gordon. It just makes no sense to me, and it's insulting. It's actually insulting that we're supposed to believe that this character who we want to like is emotionally bereft because this water creature leaves, and they're all mad. The visuals of this thing going through the water / sand is great. Again, it's all stunning, but we're just never given any reason.
Right.
Here, maybe this is a better way to explain it. We're not shown what to think. We're told what to think without any explanation. And when you're writing, you never do that.
Yep. I feel like if we wanted this whole episode with Graydon to work, we needed to see at least 2 or 3 other episodes where we see him as an empath with animals or something. Yeah, walking through the forest with all the butterflies. Why can't they all be on him and not on a lot? That would have been interesting.
Like Ezra, how they built Ezra's.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to show him from the outset being, a caring person for rodents or anything. Just to kind of build us up to this point where we go, yeah, well, of course he's going to naturally bond with this sea creature that's got the big eyes, and
right,
and he's, and that would feel like a good payoff. And I think your analogy of the unprepared DM is perfect for this. It really feels like somebody panicking and throwing everything in to make it interesting,
right,
and without any work being put in beforehand.
Correct.
And then I think we're going to see, that armor has been it's something that's brought up as super important, and then most people don't care about it.
Exactly.
Right. And then it's,
can you imagine not caring about the Infinity Stones? Like, that's never going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but someone in this last episode is going to put it on. I'm assuming it's either Kit or Jade, and it's going to work, and that's how they're going to save everyone.
Yeah,
I think it's going to. For me, I think it has to be Kit because then that gives her this supreme purpose and this.
It better,
and it's that connection to her father. And,
yeah, your dad did this for you. He knew you were the only one that could wear it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's where I keep thinking. I was like, they're trying to set up every payoff possible, but it's just like it's going to be like the finale of the 4th of July. Like, okay, we're just shooting off everything right now, and try to enjoy every single thing that happened because the kitchen sink is coming at you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Are there any key points? I'm ready to grade this one. Are there any key points you want to bring up as we wrap up this conversation?
I mean, I apologize for missing your episode about the mines episode. Can I just ask you though, was anybody else kind of really miffed at the trolls' voices and their behavior? Oh, okay, good, right. Ross is nodding his head.
I actually loved that.
You liked it? Oh my God. See, that was just like the nail in the coffin for me. Pretty much, I was like, "Oh no, don't do this." It's anyway. Sorry, but anyway.
No, that worked for me because I felt like they were trying something different and they stuck with it the whole time. Yes, and so that you can't say
I
that. I
applaud their commitment, but again, it just felt tone deaf, or it just didn't work for me. But anyway, sorry. That's all I had to do.
I did that. Ross, anything you want to bring up?
I think Erin Kellyman is fantastic. Yes. And I hope this hasn't done anything to hold her back from getting bigger roles and stuff. I don't know that she's utilized enough. She's
great.
She gets some nice spotlight, but again, I don't think she's able to shine. I think in 1 to 2 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, she was able to show more than she's been able to show this entire season.
Oh, right. Yeah. So, the cast is wonderful. The visuals are great. The orchestral stuff is spectacular.
Yep.
The sets and the scope are really well done. I'm assuming a lot of it's done just like they did The Mandalorian. I don't know that for sure, but it just seems that way. And plus, there's some real sets in here as well. But the inconsistent nature of the narrative and I don't think they don't know where they're going. I just think that I don't know. I really don't know. I'm going to look at the Forbes article and see if I can make peace with it. But I'm ready to give my letter grade. What about the two of you?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, Neil, why don't you start? Then no one will follow you, or we'll all follow you.
There we go. Finally, I go first. This one is getting a C+ for me, and I feel bad for that. But it's as honest as I can be. I think the first 2 episodes, I believe I gave them kind of like B's, didn't I? Something like that. I think so. I was pretty up on it, but as it's gone on, I've got more frustrated. And like I said, I do feel a little bit bad about this because whenever I go online, I see a lot of people love it and they're really, really into it. And so I don't want to rain on anybody's parade. But yeah, just personally, there you go. There's a C+ for me.
Okay. Ross?
Yeah. And I love that I have seen so many people that enjoy it and voicing that. That's great. And I'm happy that that's there for them and that they are getting out of it what they're expecting. This is the lowest grade I think I've ever given anything on one of these shows. I'm going to go a D+. Like when it ended, I was like, okay, good. It's over. And it has been very few shows on Disney Plus where I've felt that way.
Okay. So, the last 5 minutes is an A, really compelling. I really like what's going on with Eric and then this showdown is going to be spectacular. I'm very much looking forward to that. But like you, this is the lowest grade I've ever given anything. I'm giving it an F. Okay. Look, and I'm going to stand by that. I'm not happy about it. I don't relish it. I'm not someone who enjoys being cynical or critical because I'm not cynical. I am not critical, but for me, the inconsistency of these characters is so frustrating to me, and I am insulted by it, by no one in particular. No one is causing this of me. I, as a critic and a passionate viewer of fantasy, of science fiction, of great storytelling, there's so much more that can be done. I'm not saying I could do it better, because I'm sure I cannot, but I want more. Either be just, tonally you can take chances and you can take risks. And I applaud that. And it's not like they're playing it safe. I just don't know what they're playing. And maybe it's not for me. And that's good. There's plenty of stuff I can enjoy. But this one frustrates me, and I painfully give this an F.
Yeah, and I think I think people are gonna be rattled by that, Dan. I think that's a good thing. Like, I think it is.
Also,
I think it's healthy to hear.
But how could this not be for you as well? I mean, that's this should really be completely in your ballpark. It's yes. Like it's got the production values and the pedigree that we've all grown up with and love, and yet,
well, and Neil, it's funny for me because I think back to Celebration when we got in Anaheim for Star Wars, when they showed the preview of this, and I was just like, I remember even when it happened, it's like, okay, that'll be cool, but you've just taken time away from Star Wars for me. Like, what are you doing? Okay. It's when you have that captive audience, and you're like, oh, you know what? We're about to let you watch what you came here for, but we're going to force these couple ads down your throat first. And that's kind of how Willow started with me. Right. I wasn't upset at it, but I was just like, okay, that's not what I'm here for. But I get it. So maybe, I don't know, maybe that even factors in a little bit when I was just like, okay, can we get back to laser swords, and can you bring Sabine out on stage?
Right. Well, yeah, like, I still am looking forward to the finale. I want it to be great. I want it to wrap up things. And I hope, believe me, I can eat some humble pie and they can say, Dan, sorry, you judged it too early. This is actually what we've been doing. I would weep with delight. I just don't think it's going to happen. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, they haven't earned the trust right now.
No, they have not. The narrative is not something I can trust. It is not because of an unreliable narrator. It's because of an unpredictable. Yeah, blah, blah. Okay. Well, gentlemen, I am really glad that I had the two of you on for this. People, of course, love hearing from you both. Your charm, your intelligence, your honesty are very much appreciated with me and our friends at Coffee with Kenobi, our Coffee with Kenobi family. So, Neil, please let everybody know where they can reach out to you and talk with you about Willow, Star Wars, or anything they'd like to ask you.
You can find me on Twitter at Nobby1138. That's an easy one to remember. I occasionally on Facebook if I need to remember somebody's birthday. And that's normally the only places you'll find me. So come and find me on Twitter and add me so we can argue about Willow.
Love it. And next, the gentleman who coined the Bipolar Express, Ross, tell us where they can find you.
Yeah, so that'll be on Twitter at Ross Hollebon, on Instagram at PopstarIndie. And then I'll just say be on the lookout because I got a final logo artwork today for an upcoming music podcast that I'm going to be starting. So I'm going to just tease it that much at this point, but I'm super excited. I'm excited to have guests on there and to celebrate everyone's favorite individual albums. So again, having that excuse, there will be Star Wars music in it at times. I promise that. But looking at bands and artists from all over the place and just what make people happy when you're turning up that dial or turning up your AirPods a little bit.
This is breaking news too, isn't it?
Yeah. This is the first time other than just some lower level side conversations that I've had. So it's been a long time in the work. And Dan, obviously you've you've played a big role in always inspiring that and the CWK community, and Mark with Fantha Tracks as well, and the Sessions guys, and just some of the people that I've been able to work with and do some great things with. But I took my time, but I wanted to make sure that it was something I was passionate about and that was going to have staying power.
I can't wait.
Yeah, sounds excellent.
It does. I'm honored that you shared it on Coffee with Kenobi. Well, we will look forward to that, and looking forward to breaking down the final episode in season 1 of Willow.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.